The nurses had grown used to the soft beeping of machines in room 407, but one winter morning, something felt different. The air carried a quiet heaviness, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. In the middle of the room, surrounded by tubes and warm blankets, lay a frail baby boy named Liam. He'd been fighting a rare heart condition since birth, and the doctors had already prepared his family for the unthinkable. His tiny chest rose and fell with difficulty, his breath shallow, his skin pale. The hospital staff moved gently around him, doing everything they could to keep him comfortable during what they feared were his final hours. But the world outside room 407 was about to shift in the most unexpected way, all because of a German shepherd named Rocco, whose instincts, love, and loyalty would soon touch millions of hearts worldwide. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of pure love, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support brings these powerful, emotional stories to life. Liam's parents, Emily and Mark, spent every moment at his bedside. They hadn't slept properly in weeks. Emily held his tiny hand, whispering soft words only a mother's heart could form, while Mark stood by the window, staring blankly at the gray winter sky. They had already sold their car, emptied their savings, and used every ounce of hope they had left. Yet the doctor's words haunted them. There was nothing more they could do. Liam's heart was simply too weak. Nurses tried to comfort the grieving parents, but grief sits in the bones, heavy and unmoving. All they could do was wait for the next breath and pray that it wouldn't be the last. But outside the hospital, a German shepherd was pacing restlessly on the cold pavement. Rocco belonged to Mark's late brother Daniel, who had passed away 2 years earlier. Since then, Rocco had stayed with the family, becoming more than just a dog. He was their guardian, their shadow, their silent strength. But the night before, Rocco had begun acting strangely. He barked at the door, refused to sleep, and scratched at the floor as if trying to dig through it. He kept running to Liam's empty crib at home, whining in pain, his eyes filled with worry. Emily thought he was just stressed by the long hospital days, but Mark felt there was something deeper in Rocco's behavior, something instinctive. In the morning, without any command or leash, Rocco bolted out of the house the moment the door opened. Mark chased after him, confused and breathless, until he realized where Rocco was heading, the hospital. By the time Rocco reached the hospital entrance, his paws were wet with melting snow, and his breath came in sharp gasps. He ran past startled visitors and nurses, ignoring the shouts behind him. He knew exactly where to go. He had followed the family enough times to know Liam's room by scent alone. When he burst into room 407, Emily gasped, and Mark froze in the doorway. The nurses tried to pull Rocco back, but the dog did something that made everyone stop moving. He walked slowly toward Liam's bed and rested his head gently near the baby's feet. His entire body lowered to the ground, ears flat, tail still, breathing soft and steady. For the first time in days, Liam's eyes fluttered open, faint but unmistakable. No one in the room dared to move. Emily covered her mouth with her hands as tears streamed down her cheeks. Mark approached quietly, feeling his knees weaken beneath him. Even the machines seemed to slow their beeping as if respecting the moment. Rocco didn't look at anyone. His gaze was fixed on the tiny face in front of him. The dog had seen Liam only a few times before his health worsened, but in those moments he had formed a bond deeper than anyone realized. And now, sensing the baby's fading strength, he had rushed to be by his side, not as a pet but as family. From that day on, Rocco refused to leave Liam's room. He stayed under the crib, next to the chair, or by the bed, wherever he could be closest to the baby. Nurses who once frowned at the idea of a dog near medical equipment were now moved by Rocco's devotion. Even the strictest doctor allowed him to stay after noticing a change in Liam's vitals whenever Rocco was present. The baby's heartbeat became more stable, his breathing less strained, and his tiny fingers twitched with faint signs of life. The doctors called it coincidence. Emily called it hope. Over the next few days, word began to spread around the hospital. Staff members who were exhausted from long shifts found themselves stopping by room 407 just to watch the peaceful bond between the fragile baby and the faithful dog. Patients walking the hallway smiled when they saw Rocco sleeping under the crib. It was as if the German shepherd carried warmth with him, warmth that filled the quietest corners of the cold, sterile hospital. Then something incredible happened. One morning, as the sun filtered weakly through the window, Liam's condition unexpectedly worsened. His tiny chest heaved, alarms sounded, and nurses rushed in. Emily cried out for help while Mark held her trembling shoulders. But before anyone could reach the baby, Rocco leaped to his feet and pressed his head gently against Liam's blanket, whining with deep, trembling sorrow. And in that moment, something shifted. The monitors steadied, the frantic beeping slowed. Liam's breathing became more even. The nurses froze again, unable to understand what they were seeing. Emily felt her heart pound as she witnessed the impossible. Her dying baby calming in the presence of this loyal dog. The doctors who had long prepared the couple for the worst exchanged silent, stunned glances. It was impossible, unbelievable, something beyond medical explanation, but undeniably real. News of Rocco and Liam spread through the hospital like wildfire. A nurse posted a photo of the dog resting beside the crib. Within hours, it went viral. People from around the world began sending prayers, messages, and gifts. Parents who had suffered similar tragedies wrote heartfelt letters. Animal lovers celebrated Rocco's devotion. News channels requested interviews. The world wanted to know the story of the German shepherd who refused to let a baby die alone. But inside room 407, the family remained focused only on love, hope, and the precious minutes slipping through their fingers. Days passed slowly, and Rocco stayed by Liam's side without complaint. He barely ate, rarely moved, and never once left the room voluntarily. Emily and Mark took turns feeding him and cuddling him, whispering that he was a good boy, a brave boy, a miracle. But Rocco's gaze remained fixed on the baby he had chosen to protect. One night, everything changed again. Emily woke from a brief nap, startled by the sudden silence. The machines weren't beeping anymore. She panicked, fearing the worst, but when she looked closely, she saw something else entirely. Liam was breathing on his own. Light, delicate breaths, but steady. His color looked a little stronger. His fingers moved with purpose. She screamed for the nurses, who ran in and froze once more at the sight before them. The doctors arrived moments later, stunned beyond belief. They ran test after test, each revealing improvement where none was medically expected. It was the beginning of a slow, almost miraculous recovery. As the days turned into weeks, Liam's heart grew stronger. The doctors who once whispered sorrow now whispered disbelief. Nurses cried openly as they watched his tiny arms stretch and his lips curl into faint smiles. And through every triumph, Rocco remained at his side, as if guarding the fragile miracle he had helped nurture. By the time Liam was finally strong enough to go home, the world already knew their story. Cameras waited outside the hospital, fans lined the sidewalk holding signs with Rocco's name, and millions of hearts around the globe celebrated the miracle they had witnessed. But for Emily and Mark, the real miracle wasn't the fame. It was the sound of their son breathing softly in the car seat, the warmth of Rocco lying beside him, and the knowledge that love, in its purest form, had saved their child. Months later, Liam laughed for the first time. Rocco barked joyfully and licked the baby's tiny feet. It was a moment the family recorded and shared online. Within hours, it reached millions. People cried, celebrated, and felt renewed hope in their own struggles. Because the truth was simple and profound. Sometimes angels don't have wings. Sometimes they have 4 paws, a beating heart, and a love so deep it changes the world. If this emotional story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe so we can continue bringing you stories that remind us all of the goodness in this world. Before the ending, please comment, Rocco is an angel. In the years that followed, Liam grew strong, healthy, and joyful. He learned to walk holding onto Rocco's tail, learned to speak by calling his name, and learned to love by watching the dog who had chosen him before he was even strong enough to understand. Their bond became legendary, and every birthday, every milestone, every celebration began the same way. Liam hugging Rocco tightly, whispering gratitude only the heart can speak. And so the story lives on, a reminder to the world that love has power, that animals feel deeply, and that miracles sometimes arrive in fur and devotion.